Hey, Cody Rall here, coming to you from an ice rink today. I realized on my flight up here that I haven't played hockey in over 2 years. It's crazy how quickly it comes back. I guess it must have been deeply ingrained in my central nervous system because it did come back quite quickly. Of course, I'm a little rusty, but I guess all those years of playing ice hockey as a kid in Alaska paid off, at least today. So today I wanted to talk about taking action. In my last video, I talked about the Alfred Korzybski sense of gathering knowledge from our species, the pool of information, and being able to use reading to capitalize on that information. But the thing about that is, what is knowledge really unless you translate that into a skill? And the only way to build a skill is to take action. We have to be our own personal scientists, using that information and then taking steps towards what we want and getting feedback by doing so. It is really like how science works, except we're our own little scientists in our individual lives. Now, what you're trying to do is anything that you want to become better at, you want to build that skill set. And skill sets involve connections in your brain. So different connections in your brain allow your body to do different things. Like in hockey, the different skill sets build into being able to play the sport of hockey. In 2009, a guy named Daniel Coyle came out with a book called The Talent Code. And he talked about how each skill needs to be broken into different chunks in order to learn the whole process. In hockey, an example might be breaking the chunks into perhaps stick handling, then shooting, and then skating itself. And in business, maybe that translates into public speaking, then business decisions, and then anything else that comes into being a successful businessman in your niche. So what you're doing is building those myelin sheaths around the axons in your brain to enhance the connections. So in doing so, you're translating different types of memory. Over the years, neuroscientists have clarified a lot of different types of memory, but two types that we'll talk about today are explicit and implicit memory. Now, explicit memory comes from conscious recall, when you consciously recall information, like your phone number, for example. Implicit memory is more subconscious. It's skills that you've learned over time that you don't even have to think about anymore. In hockey, for example, if you're learning how to shoot, maybe when you're young, you're thinking about trying to lift that puck and you can't quite do it. You have to think about it every time that you do, trying different ways of rotating the blade and different types of strength, different amounts of strength in order to get up the puck off the ice. But eventually that becomes implicit. You don't even have to think about it anymore. You can just do it. And again, that would translate into a lot of other skills like public speaking. So what that is your brain is literally taking information that was once needed to be consciously recalled and explicit memory and putting that into areas of your cerebral cortex that no longer you have to be thought about it subconsciously, you just do it subconsciously. And that's how you build these skill sets to be good at whatever you can do. Now, the last point that I wanted to make is going back again to Alfred Korzybski. Again, Alfred Korzybski called humans time binders. We were able to be masters of cause and effect in order to be the most proficient species on this entire planet. But the other thing that Korzybski was quoted as saying was that the map is not the territory. So anything that you think about or read about is really just a map of where you want to go. If you think about a map, like a cartoonish map of the United States, for instance, it's not the real thing. It's going to point out different cities and maybe different roads that you can take to get between them and different locations that are good to know, but it's not going to tell you really what's out there. Perhaps a satellite map is a little bit more filled in, but eventually you're just going to have to get out there and explore the real world. And again, you have to be your own scientist and really get that real world experience in order to understand what reality is all about. I myself really tried to do that back in my work with the brain. You know, I'm testing out those personal EEG products. I'm getting in the lab whenever I can. and just trying to have that real world experience to know what I'm speaking about. And I encourage everybody to take steps like that, really get out there and experience the things that you've read about so that you can talk about them more confidently and know them really in the real world.
We have a chance to improve the lives of not just millions, but billions of people on this planet through the research that's done in this BRAIN initiative alone.
We must love them, we must help them, we must serve them, because our whole success will depend on our ability to do these things.
You like fractals? Let's go. We're gonna break the barrier. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! A little doggy. I have friends.
There's a raven flying overhead.